What if money was never something you earned, but something you attracted? This audiobook reveals the hidden energy behind wealth and how your thoughts, emotions, and frequencies shape your financial reality. You're not chasing abundance. You're meant to receive it. What if everything you've ever believed about money was completely wrong, and it's the very reason you're still struggling? Most people spend their entire lives chasing wealth, believing it comes from hard work, hustle, and sacrifice. But what if the truth is, money has been trying to find you all along? In this video, we're about to uncover the hidden reason why some people effortlessly attract abundance, while others stay stuck no matter how hard they try. This isn't about budgeting tricks or overnight hacks. It's about a powerful, overlooked shift in your mindset that can completely transform your financial reality. And here's the kicker. Once you understand this one principle, nothing in your life will be the same. So before you scroll past, ask yourself, are you truly ready to break free from the cycle of lack? Because by the end of this video, you won't just think differently about money. You'll feel a shift so deep, you'll never see it the same way again. Stick around, drop a comment if this resonates even a little, and make sure to subscribe, because what you're about to discover could be the most important truth you hear all year. I once carried the belief, firm and unquestioned, that money was a material thing, printed on paper, stacked in banks, accounted for by digits, and earned through unwavering effort. But then without warning and without ceremony, a question whispered its way into my mind. Not loud, not forceful, but with a weight that could not be ignored. If money is purely material, how can it be that some who exert so little have more than enough, while others labor tirelessly their entire lives and still scrape by? That question didn't require an answer right away. It didn't demand urgency. It simply opened a portal into a higher awareness, one that quietly began to dismantle my old assumptions. I came to realize, perhaps for the first time, that money isn't material at all. Money is energy. And when you truly allow that to land, not intellectually, but viscerally, every rigid notion you held begins to dissolve. You stop believing that your income is tied to your labor. You stop assuming that your worth is measured by your workload. You begin to understand that money flows not from what you do, but from who you are while doing it. It doesn't respond to the external motions of effort and action. It listens inwardly, responding instead to the silent frequency you emit, the vibration your soul sings when no one else is listening. Imagine life as a vast, intricate composition of sound and silence. In this grand music, money is a note that only plays in resonance with the melody of abundance. It isn't something you chase. It doesn't hide or flee. It simply seeks a match, someone who knows how to tune into the same frequency. And if you're reading this now, perhaps that means something. Maybe like I once did, you are beginning to remember an ancient truth, one that's older than banks, older than gold, older even than language itself. The truth that prosperity isn't a goal to be reached, but a frequency that has always lived inside you. Just as a flower doesn't learn how to bloom, it simply remembers that blooming is its nature. You too don't need to learn how to be wealthy. You only need to remember your inherent nature of abundance. Let me tell you about Eleanor, a woman who sold herbs in a lively, crowded marketplace in a time long past. Every morning she would meticulously count her coins, believing her wealth was encapsulated by those metallic discs clinking in her hands. Then one morning, a mysterious traveler arrived. With a glint in his eye, he told her, "I don't sell anything you can touch, but I sell everything you can imagine." That single sentence pierced through Eleanor's consciousness like lightning splitting a silent sky. Suddenly, the coins she held no longer looked like solid proof of wealth. They became something more, vessels glowing with invisible current. From that moment forward, her shop didn't change in size or location. The shelves were the same. The herbs were the same. But something profound shifted within her. Her thoughts stopped orbiting around lack. Instead, she attuned herself to abundance. And without trying harder, without adding hours to her day, something miraculous happened. More customers came, money flowed effortlessly, and her shop thrived. Not because the world outside had changed, but because her inner world had. She no longer vibrated with scarcity. She had realigned herself. I knew someone like Eleanor once. Harold was a humble mailman, earning a salary most would consider modest. His bank account would never turn heads. But Harold, he lived as though he already had everything he needed. He found richness in the sunlight that warmed his early walks, in the laughter of children echoing through neighborhoods, in the soft breeze that wrapped around him like an old friend. One day, Harold received a sizable inheritance, but the change didn't start then. No, the money was simply a physical echo of something he'd long been cultivating inside. Those who knew Harold said he didn't change after the money arrived. That's because he was already living in the energy of wealth long before it took physical form. These stories aren't blueprints for action. They aren't prescriptions to follow step by step. I share them because they hold a message. Money does not respond to toil. It responds to tone, your internal frequency. You can say, I need money 1,000 times and still feel it slip through your fingers. But when your heart radiates the silent song of readiness, I am open, I am aligned, I am ready to receive. Money listens, it always listens. That's why the very first thing I do each morning has nothing to do with lists or screens or external plans. I sit, I breathe, I close my eyes, and I visualize money not as something to possess but as a golden stream of light, flowing toward me effortlessly, gently without needing to be pulled. I don't chase it. I don't summon it. I simply remember that it's always been flowing, and I allow myself to receive. This isn't magic, it's calibration. It's remembering what your energy truly is beneath the noise. Do this enough times and something within you begins to shift. You'll notice your shoulders relax when you spend money. You'll stop shrinking with guilt when the bill arrives. You'll no longer look at the wealthy with envy or feel shame about your own financial standing. Instead, you'll begin to feel, and I mean truly feel, that money is on its way to you, flowing with grace because you are aligned with its rhythm. Not because you demanded it, but because you made space for it. So try this, just once. Tomorrow morning, find a quiet place. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and visualize those golden streams flowing toward you. Not forced, not earned, just always there. Don't allow doubt to interrupt. Don't question its reality. Just let yourself feel the ancient truth that money has always wanted to come to you. It's only been waiting for your heart to open. Hold that vision until your body feels light, expansive, like an open field under sunlight. Because in truth, you've never been empty. You're not lacking. You are and have always been the very place that money wants to return to. I used to think of money as a river flowing through a harsh world, competitive, unforgiving, demanding control and manipulation. A thing to fight for, a thing to grasp. But that illusion broke the day I realized money doesn't move in straight lines. It moves along curves, curves of thought, belief, and emotion. It doesn't care for outstretched hands or careful budgets. It listens to what you emanate from the depths of your being. And when you get quiet enough, really truly quiet, you can hear it too. Like an ancient melody buried beneath your worries, waiting for you to remember. I'll tell you of Clara, a girl from the soft hills near a quiet village. Her heart pulsed with gratitude, so deeply, so purely, that it changed everything. One hot afternoon, she passed an old well, dust-covered, forgotten by most. But as she peered into the water, something strange occurred. Each time her heart surged with gratitude, the water gushed forth as if answering her joy. Yet when fear or doubt crept in, the flow slowed, hesitated. In that moment, Clara understood what no one had taught her. Wealth wasn't about effort. It was a mirror of her inner state. Gratitude didn't just feel good. It was the signal that summoned abundance. I used to believe, like many do, that money only came when you worked harder, performed better, planned everything perfectly. But it turns out money is like the water from that well. It responds not to logic but to emotion. When you trust, when you relax into gratitude, you create a channel. Money flows through that gap. But when you tighten, resist, control, no matter how abundant the world outside may be, you shut the gate, and within you it stays dry. Just like Walter, a merchant in the valley who spent decades counting coins, protecting every dollar with invisible walls. But the more he tried to keep, the more money slipped away. It wasn't until illness slowed him, forced him to let go, that his business began to bloom under new hands. The very thing he feared, letting go, became the doorway to prosperity. I don't tell you this to suggest surrendering responsibility. I tell you this to reveal the deeper kind of control, the control over your energy. You may craft meticulous financial plans, set smart goals, calculate every risk, but if your mind is gripped by fear, your energy is whispering to the universe, "I don't believe." And the universe, with no judgment, no opinion, simply echoes back what you project. Not your words, not your hopes, but your beliefs. So I ask you, what energy are you living in today? Are you breathing in peace and expansion, or are you shrinking under worry and doubt? The current of prosperity has always been beneath your feet, like a forgotten spring beneath the soil. You only need to dig deep enough to reconnect with it. There's a simple practice I return to each day, one you can try. I picture myself beside a flowing stream of golden light. With each breath, I inhale that light. I don't grasp it. I don't count it. I let it move through me, fluid, effortless, alive, like breath, like life, because you are not a seeker of money. You are the river, and money longs to flow into you. The only thing required is this: clear the boulders, doubt, fear, control that obstruct the current. Once you do, you won't need to chase anything. The stream will find you. Perhaps you've spent years believing that money is the product of hustle, of waking early, grinding endlessly, sacrificing joy for security. And yes, effort matters in the physical world. But at a deeper level, money responds not to action alone, but to alignment. Alignment with an internal frequency that says, "I trust. I am open. I am already enough." When you stop asking, "How can I get more?" and instead begin asking, "Am I aligned with the vibration of abundance?" That is when the current begins to return to you. This shift doesn't require complex strategies or radical changes to your lifestyle. It begins the moment you choose to feel differently, to wake up and embody the energy of someone who already lives in prosperity, not someone endlessly waiting for it to arrive. That simple shift is the first and most vital step in returning to the sacred current that has always flowed beneath your surface. A current not struggle, but of stillness, of clarity, of natural flow. And when you walk in that state, not pretending, not forcing a smile, but moving through your day with quiet assurance, with an inner knowing that says, "I am a match for abundance," the world begins to rearrange itself around you, piece by piece, silently, inevitably. There's something you must understand, something often dismissed or mocked in a world that worships logic and external validation. Your thoughts are not just thoughts. Each one is a vibration, a frequency, a signal broadcast outward into the field of life. You are not simply thinking, you are transmitting. And the universe, like a vast and finely tuned receiver, responds not to your hopes, not to your verbal affirmations alone, but to the emotional charge behind each thought you allow to take root. So when you spend your days in quiet worry, repeating silently, "I don't have enough," you are not just expressing fear. You are summoning more experiences that match that very frequency. The magnetic field of your inner world begins to pull in conditions, opportunities, and outcomes that reflect that internal scarcity. Not because life is cruel, not because you're unlucky, but because that is the signal being sent. I once knew a woman named Dorothy, an elderly pianist who lived in a modest apartment overlooking a quiet park. Her fingers, once swift and graceful, had begun to stiffen, but her heart still carried the music of another era. Every morning she would sit beside her old piano, not to perform, not to impress, but to return to something timeless within her. One morning she decided to speak new words aloud. "I am a magnet for prosperity. Money flows to me naturally. I am worthy of wealth in all forms." At first the words felt foreign, awkward, like notes out of tune. But she persisted. Each morning she returned to them like a musician practicing scales. And over time something shifted, not outside but within. Her posture changed. Her voice gained strength. And soon her external world followed. An old student returned, offering a position teaching music to children. A neighbor referred her to a charity concert that paid handsomely. But none of these things came first. They were not the cause. They were the effect. What changed was Dorothy's frequency, and the universe simply mirrored it. That's the secret we forget. The world doesn't ask whether you're sincere. It reflects your dominant vibration without judgment. If your inner dialogue is soaked in doubt, the world shows you evidence of that doubt. If you speak of abundance but feel deep unworthiness, the results will align with the feeling, not the words. I once met Eugene, a small shop owner in a crumbling market square. Each day he repeated the same sentences. There are fewer customers. Money is always tight. I don't know how much longer I can keep going. And each day reality complied. Customers trickled away. Sales plummeted. It wasn't until a wise friend encouraged him to flip the script, to begin saying, "My ideal customers are finding me. Money comes from unexpected places. I am worthy of prosperity," that the tide began to turn. Eugene was skeptical at first. He muttered the phrases with no real conviction, but repetition began to soften his doubt. Within weeks, a surprise investor arrived. A passing traveler fell in love with one of Eugene's handcrafted items and helped to bring his business online. The physical changes followed the inner shift, not the other way around. And that is why I urge you not to merely read these words, but to live them. To understand that your mind is not just a container of thoughts, but a signal tower, broadcasting constantly. If your internal voice repeats lack and struggle, you are asking the world to mirror exactly that. But if you learn to tune your inner dialogue to one of calm expectation, ease, and worthiness, even before the bank balance shifts, you begin to align with the flow of prosperity that has been trying to reach you all along. Start simply. Each morning, write down 3 statements of abundance. Not like chores, but like a musician tuning their instrument before a symphony. Feel the words as living frequencies. Speak them as if they're calling home something that has always been yours. I allow money to come to me easily. I am a vessel for abundance. I live in the energy of wealth. These are not just affirmations, they are invitations. And money responds not to the truth or falsity of your words, but to the sincerity of your feeling. There are beliefs you've inherited, quietly, unconsciously, from voices that once seemed wise and loving. Money doesn't come easy. Rich people are greedy. Our family has never been well off. These are not universal truths. They are generational echoes. They often come wrapped in the affection of elders who, in their own ways, sought to protect you. But unless you pause to examine them, they become the very blueprint of your financial life. These phrases don't come with warnings. They arrive disguised as wisdom, passed down through repetition, spoken in hushed tones over dinner tables and between long silences. But behind them often lies fear. Not your fear, but someone else's. The memory of a grandfather who lost everything, a mother who grew up rationing, a community that taught, "Don't dream too big, it only leads to disappointment." You may not have chosen these beliefs, but if you never question them, you might be living within a map that was never drawn for you. I remember Frank, a master shoemaker whose every pair was a work of art. Yet despite his brilliance, his shop sat mostly empty. Not because he lacked talent, but because each night he sat beneath an oil lamp, whispering his father's words. "Nothing in life comes easy. To survive, you must suffer." Those words shaped the walls of his reality, invisible but unyielding. He didn't just believe in scarcity, he lived within its architecture. And that is why his brilliance bore no fruit. Not because the market had failed him, but because he carried a blueprint that had expired, a belief system inherited and never questioned. You may be carrying similar blueprints right now. Beliefs like, money and spirituality can't coexist, or to help others, I must sacrifice my own well-being. They may appear noble, but they often mask a deep wound, one passed on through generations, too burdened to question. What would happen if you paused long enough to see those beliefs not as truths, but as old coats, useful once, protective once, but now too tight, too heavy, too outdated to wear into the future? Try this. Take a blank sheet of paper and write down 5 phrases about money you've heard since childhood. Don't filter, don't edit. Then look at each one with compassion, as if speaking to a beloved elder who once said them. Ask yourself gently, is this still true for me? Do I need to carry this belief forward, or can I release it with love? Because you are not betraying your family by outgrowing their beliefs. You are honoring them by evolving the legacy. Like Ruth, a weaver from a quiet valley who was raised to believe, people like us don't get ahead. Until one autumn morning, watching leaves dance freely in the wind, she asked herself, why can't I live that freely too? That question didn't just open her heart, it changed her life. She started speaking new truths. I can be wealthy and still be kind. I can live abundantly and still be humble. And soon after, her weaving was discovered by a traveling merchant who placed a large order. Not luck, not coincidence. It was her vibration, reborn. You are not just changing your life, you are healing a lineage. With each limiting belief you examine and release, you clear the path for those who came before you and those who will come after. You stop the cycle, not with blame, but with clarity. Money is not good, it is not bad, it is energy. And like all energy, it amplifies what is already there. If you carry guilt, it amplifies guilt. If you carry worthiness, it multiplies power. And that is why it is so crucial to become aware of what you are carrying, what was handed to you out of fear, what you can now choose to set down with gratitude. You do not have to wear a coat meant for someone else's winter. You can thank it for its warmth, then remove it, breathe, and step into a new spring. Try this. Place your hand over your heart and speak these words aloud, even if they feel unfamiliar. I allow myself to be wealthy. I no longer repeat the old beliefs. I create a new chapter where money, kindness, spirituality, and love exist together in peace within me. These words are not magic spells. They are mirrors. They reflect your willingness to live a new story. And once spoken, that story begins. Not because the world outside changes instantly, but because something ancient within you has been set free. There's a principle that has echoed through time, whispered in sacred texts, taught in hidden schools, and reflected plainly in nature. Anything that ceases to flow begins to die. Water that doesn't move grows stagnant. Air that doesn't circulate becomes stifling. And money, just like breath, just like light, is meant to flow. It is not meant to be hoarded in fear, clutched with white knuckles, or withheld in distrust. I once believed the more tightly I held my earnings, the safer I was. I rationed every coin, hesitated at every expense, convinced that giving would somehow deplete me. But instead of security, what I found was contraction, a shrinking of joy, of generosity, of possibility. I didn't realize that by holding on in fear, I was not protecting wealth. I was strangling the very flow that brings it back. Money thrives in movement. It is not kept alive by possession. It is kept alive by circulation, the sacred law that the universe honors in every living thing. Raymond, a blacksmith from a modest village, once exemplified this truth. As his business grew, so did his caution. He stopped helping neighbors, refused apprentices, and tightened his circle to protect what he had built. His forge was filled with coin, but his heart had gone cold. The joy that once infused his work vanished. Until one day, in the silence of his own emptiness, something shifted. He began repairing tools for those who couldn't pay, mentoring local youth, giving not extravagantly, but generously, intentionally. And from that moment, money began to return, not just in greater amounts, but in deeper ways. New clients arrived. Nobles from distant regions sought his craftsmanship. But more importantly, life returned to his work. The fire in his forge became the fire in his chest. He no longer lived to protect money. He lived to let it move through him. And this is the shift the world is waiting for you to make. Not to spend recklessly, not to give until you're depleted, but to circulate with trust, to move energy with intention, knowing that what you give in the spirit of expansion always returns tenfold. There's a woman named Lillian I once knew, newly widowed, her savings almost gone. One afternoon, a stranger came to her door asking for food. She had only one loaf of bread left, and yet she shared half. Not because she had plenty, but because she chose to live in the vibration of faith. That evening, she received news that a distant aunt had left her an unexpected inheritance. Some may call it luck. I don't. I call it alignment, a universe responding with mathematical precision to the frequency of an open heart. You see, giving and receiving are not opposites. They are two notes in the same sacred chord, two breaths of the same eternal rhythm. To give is to exhale, to create space. And space is the signal that says, I am ready to receive. And when you receive, it is not to hoard, but to build capacity to give again. Prosperity is not measured by what you store. It is measured by how fully you allow energy to move through you. I've seen people who give freely, yet struggle to receive. They feel shame in accepting a compliment, discomfort in receiving help. But this refusal isn't humility. It is interruption. It blocks the river. It says to the universe, I'm only worthy when I'm pouring out, not when I'm being filled. And the flow stutters. Others receive constantly, but never give. They accumulate, stash, insulate, and over time their energy grows heavy, stagnant, not because they are evil, but because they have forgotten the law. Everything in nature gives and receives. Trees release oxygen and absorb carbon dioxide. Rivers carry water and receive tributaries. The sun offers light and is nourished by gravitational harmony. Only humans forget that prosperity lives in the balance. This balance can be practiced in small, beautiful ways. Share a meal with someone who needs it. Donate when it feels meaningful, not performative. Give thanks with sincerity. Offer attention, presence, a word of kindness. These are not tiny acts. They are the ripples that expand wealth far beyond currency. And the more you practice conscious giving, the more you prepare yourself for healthy receiving. Because the moment you give with trust, you become a vessel for more. And the moment you receive with gratitude, you complete the sacred cycle. Money doesn't just come to those who ask. It stays with those who understand that wealth is not a destination. It is a rhythm, a relationship, a dance between your heart and the infinite current. But here's something few talk about. You cannot attract what you secretly resent. If you look at wealth with disdain, judgment, or suspicion, don't be surprised when it avoids you. Beatrice, a seamstress near the market, used to scowl at the well-dressed passers-by. They must be corrupt, she'd mutter. And over time, her clients dwindled, not because her craft diminished, but because her energy grew increasingly resistant. She didn't want to be like them, and so money, feeling unwelcome, simply moved on. You can't build a friendship with someone you deeply distrust, and the same is true for your relationship with money. George, a man who often said, if only I had more money, my life would change, one day discovered old journal pages he had written, filled with resentment. Money is cruel. People with wealth are alone. I'll never be good at managing it. Reading his own words was like reading a confession. It wasn't the world that had conspired against him. It was his own frequency, looping silently and shaping every result. And that's the truth. Money holds no grudge. It carries no agenda. It is a mirror, one that reflects with perfect honesty the image you've been projecting. If you feel you must earn every coin through suffering, ask where that belief came from. If you reject gifts, compliments, or unexpected support, consider whether you are equating love with debt. Life does not operate like a ledger. It operates like light, moving freely, illuminating all that is ready to shine. And if you allow it, you can begin to relate to money not as a taskmaster, not as a savior, but as a friend, a reflection, a faithful amplifier of the energy you choose each day. Try this. Write a letter to money, truly. Pour out the truth, every frustration, every memory, every moment you feared or resented it. Be raw. Be vulnerable. Then write a second letter, not from pain, but from your healed self. Welcome money like an old friend you're ready to understand, to embrace. Say, I'm ready for a new chapter. I want to build trust. I want to live in a frequency where you feel safe to stay. And when you do that sincerely, your relationship will begin to shift, not just emotionally, but materially. Because money does not change who you are. It magnifies who you already are. If you're generous, money helps you be more generous. If you're afraid, it amplifies that fear. So the real question is not, how do I get more? But who am I when money arrives? Are you the version of yourself that wealth can trust, that abundance can stay with? Remember this, your reality will always reflect your frequency. You don't need to wait for more money to feel secure. Build security from within, and money will respond. You don't need to have more to feel worthy. Live from worthiness, and abundance will follow. True wealth begins the moment you stop seeing money as external and start recognizing it as an extension of your inner world. And the real miracle doesn't appear as a deposit or an inheritance. It arrives the moment you look in the mirror and say, I am already enough. I no longer wait. I radiate. I no longer chase, I attract. There was a time I believed money was the destination, that it was the reward at the end of the race, the thing that would finally prove my worth. So I ran. I sacrificed. I said yes to things that felt wrong just to earn a little more. And yes, eventually the money came. But the peace I thought would follow never arrived. The emptiness only grew. It wasn't until I stopped and asked myself, why does this feel hollow, that I realized the truth. Money was never meant to be the end. It was always the means, a vehicle, a bridge. It exists to support something deeper, a life that matters, a mission that uplifts, a sense of inner fulfillment that no number can replace. Arthur taught me that. He spent years obsessing over his finances, afraid to lose, afraid to lack. But when his sister fell ill, he used every cent he had for her care, and something inside him changed. In that moment, he stopped seeing money as something to protect. He saw it as a tool to serve love, and shortly after, opportunities began to appear. Not out of magic, but because his energy shifted from hoarding to harmony. He had aligned his flow with something greater than fear. That's what money responds to. Not your plans, but your purpose. Not your ambition, but your alignment. It doesn't want to be worshipped, it wants to be led. If you lead with scarcity, it will always feel insufficient. But if you lead with clarity, with heart, with a willingness to serve something meaningful, money becomes a river that flows with grace. Lena, a retired teacher, spent her days tutoring children in her neighborhood without asking for payment. She didn't do it for recognition. She did it for the joy in their eyes when they understood something new. And one day, the universe responded. A school invited her to consult. The money followed, but it was never about the money. It was about resonance. So ask yourself, if money were no longer an issue, what would you do with your days? What would you create? Who would you serve? What makes you feel truly alive? The answer to that question, that is your true goal. Not money, not security, but the life your soul has always longed to live. And when you anchor yourself in that purpose, money will find you. Not to pamper you, but to help you expand your light. That's why money comes to some and leaves others. Not because it plays favorites, but because it stays where it is welcomed with clarity, where it flows towards something sacred. You are the source, not your job, not your savings. You. Everything else, clients, opportunities, relationships, is a mirror reflecting the frequency you broadcast. When you align with your truth, the universe aligns with you. When you radiate worthiness, value arrives. And the moment you stop waiting and begin living from your center, the current begins to flow. I don't say this as theory. I say it as someone who once chased, who once collapsed, and who now walks slowly, steadily, in flow. I've watched people rise from nothing, not because they got lucky, but because they dared to believe the source was within them. You are not someone hoping to receive. You are someone designed to generate. Your energy is the transmission. Your intention is the compass. Your vibration is the invitation. When you stop acting like a seeker and begin living as a creator, you stop chasing outcomes and start embodying them. The truth is simple, and it has always been waiting for you to return to it. You are the source, and the world is ready to respond. So pause now, feel your heart, listen. What are you radiating each day? If it's fear, acknowledge it and breathe into a higher emotion. If it's stagnation, gently invite movement. If it's love, gratitude, readiness, then know this. You are already aligned. You are already flowing. You are already the answer. And the wealth you seek is simply your own energy, reflected back with perfect clarity by a universe that never stops listening.